kind of rolling.
Okay, well, I'm going to roll with the punches here. Thank you all so much for coming out to this presentation today. Run around the room and clap, makes it sound bigger. Well, my name is Jonas Cain, for those of you at home who don't know me, and I am a self-proclaimed facilitator of fascination. I facilitate fascinating experiences, specifically focusing on how to develop and foster positivity at home, at work, in our communities, and truly in all aspects of our lives. And my latest book is called Are You Positive?, which is an 8-step acronym for how to develop positivity, whether you are an inherently positive person or especially if you are not. Following the step in putting your own life into it, I believe that following these steps you can develop positivity to make your life amazing. Isn't this ridiculous?
Oh, it's absurd.
It is absurd.
Sounds familiar to me.
Absurd jokes with Jonas Cain. Now, I tell you that story because this introduces the first part of Are You Positive? Because there's some misunderstanding about what positivity means, and there's some misunderstanding about whole cards and whole cards. Is it whole with an H or is it whole with a W, right? And to really illustrate this further, I'm going to tell you a quick little story about the time that I drank hydrochloric acid on accident. I didn't mean to. It was part of a magic trick. The idea was I was 13 years old. I was invited to perform at my high school variety show, and I wanted to do something big. I was already known as Magic Boy at my school because I would be walking down the halls. People would ask us to do magic tricks. Teachers would pull me out of the hall to perform for their classroom. I'd be in the lunchroom. The entire school surrounded me. I was Magic Boy. But this was my first chance to get on stage in front of the entire school at the talent show. So I wanted to do something big. I wanted to really impress my fellow students. So I decided to do something big. I did a version of Russian roulette. I called it acid roulette. So the idea was I'd have test tubes all filled with water, except for one which would be filled with hydrochloric acid. I would be blindfolded, and a member of the audience would mix up all the test tubes, and I would have to drink while blindfolded from the test tubes, avoiding the one test tube that had the acid. That was the idea. Input little old me, 13-year-old me, on the night of the talent show. This was my big finale. I get up there, and the very first test tube I drank had the acid. And it was a bit of a shock to me and to everyone, especially my poor mother who was in the audience. I ended up in the hospital on a feeding tube. I could have died. I didn't die. I'm still here. But I tell you this story because it highlights the misunderstanding, a matter of semantics about what positivity means, positive thinking means. Because I was positive, quote unquote positive, that the trick was going to work. And I was positive that it was going to work because in rehearsals it worked. Well, most of the time. Here's the thing though, in rehearsals, of course, I didn't use real acid because why practice something you can only afford to fail once? So I didn't use real acid in practice. In practice, I used seltzer. So I had to avoid the test tube that had the seltzer. And I was able to successfully avoid that test tube most of the time. I still sometimes drink the wrong one by mistake. So one would think, well, why would I choose to do this dangerous trick on the night of the talent show when there's a good chance it's not going to work? And the reason is because I put on a positive attitude. I said, well, this trick just has to work. This is my big finale. This trick has to work. So I ignored reality. They call this in the psychologists, they call it willful blindness. What's that?
Magical thinking.
Magical thinking. Magical thinking can be fun, but not in dangerous situations where you could die. So positivity is not about ignoring reality, because that's ridiculous. When I say that this is a matter of semantics, when I talk about positive and positivity, I'm talking about the same thing. It's just taking the noun and turning it into an adjective. And the definition for positive, these are the ones that I want to highlight. It's showing optimism and confidence. Confidence is an important word. With no possibility of doubt, clear and definite. So you're sure. Showing pleasing progress, gain, or improvement. And lastly, dealing only with matters of fact and experience, not speculative or theoretical. So it's being sure. It's taking an honest assessment of reality. A positive attitude is different in that it wishes for the best. But taking an honest assessment of reality is it hopes for the best. So wishing, you wish it's going to work out better, you want things to be better, but you don't do anything about it. Hopeful thinking, it wants a good outcome, but you actually do something about it to make sure that you are confident of it. So with this in mind, the word positivity, using the word-forming element I-T-Y-I-T-I, turns this adjective into the noun positivity, which it's being the quality of being confident, optimistic, demonstrating pleasing progress, and, as a matter of fact, and experience. So that's what I mean when I talk about positivity. Now, this semantics is important because I don't want you to confuse it for positive attitude, ignoring reality. I'm talking about confident positivity. So, with this in mind, I want us to keep this in mind. Hi, how are you? Oh, you're not here, okay. I'm not here either. I'm in a land far, far away. You know what this means? I've been taking sign language lessons. This means magic is everywhere. Magic everywhere. So the topic today is, are you positive? Positive being an 8-step acronym for developing positivity in our everyday lives. And I've created this acronym to make it meaningful and memorable. And it will help us to remember that there is magic everywhere and we live a more positive life. So without any further delay, our first step, the P in positive, is plan, play, and pursue each day. Plan, play, and pursue each day. Now, what does this mean? It means, it sort of recognizes the tension between our need to plan for the future, but also our desire to play today. Our need to make sure that we're set up, but also our desire to have fun along the way. So with this idea, it's to plan like we're going to live forever, but to also play like we're going to die tomorrow. So this step recognizes the tension between these two things. And when I was doing my research for this, I realized that we tend to live by false assumptions. And one of the biggest false assumption is that if we'll just put something off till later. We say, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll get to it later. But that's a false assumption because there's no guarantee we're going to get to later. When I was doing my research, it was Monday, October 2nd, 2017, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when I looked this up. According to there was like this world clock statistics service, it says that there had already been approximately 109,905 deaths just that day alone. Reported deaths. 109,905. Those are people that everything that they said, oh, I'll get to it later, false assumption. They're not getting to it later. So the idea is, well, we shouldn't put off till later our planning or our playing. However, to assume that we'll be able to play later or plan later is also a false assumption because when I went a little further in my research, it was 6:53 p.m. on that same day, Monday, October 2nd. The world had an estimated population of 7,571,498,621 people. So those are all people who were still alive. So if they had chosen not to plan at all, when they got to later, they would do what the comedian Stephen Wright calls, he said one day, he said, okay, I'm still alive. Now what am I going to do? If you don't plan and you just play the whole time, then when you get to later, what are you going to do? So that's what this step in being positive talks about. There's this, the tightrope, the narrow gate, like how do you get through this? And it reminds me of the bird song, also which quotes Ecclesiastes, turn, turn, turn. Remember the song? To everything there is a season and a time to everything under heaven. What it's suggesting is that there is a season, and season is going to play a big role in this step, in plan, play, and pursue. It's what some people call the four-burner theory. Have you ever heard of the four-burner theory? So it's the idea, if you imagine a stovetop with 4 burners, each burner represents a different aspect of our lives. So it's friends is one burner, family is one, health is another, and then our work is another. So those are the 4 major areas of our life. And those experts say that in order to be successful, we have to completely turn off one of those burners. Just turn it off, give no energy to it, give no fuel to it, to focus on those other 3 burners. But they also say to really be successful, we have to turn off 2 burners. Completely ignore them and focus only on 2 of them. Now, this will surely make those other burners that are cranking high, things will work out great for them, but what about the other 2 burners? What about, what if we turn off our health burner? What if we turn off our friends burner? What if we turn off our friends? What if we turn off our work? I suggest that the most important burner, at least for me, this is, and I'll argue for this, the most important one is health, because it sort of is an intersection between planning and playing, because you can play by playing sports, which is a physical activity which tends to your health, but also tending to your health also is planning for the future. It's making sure that your body is in good shape so that you can live a full life. So that, to me, my argument is that health is the intersection between planning and playing. But according to the experts, that only leaves 1 burner left. So what burners are going to be? Is it going to be work? Is it going to be family? Is it going to be friends? It's going to be all of those?
Health. Money.
Health and money, so work, right? So
Money, I mean, like taking care of, or, cutting corners.
Okay.
Being frugal.
Okay, so
Being frugal.
so being frugal. Okay, so taking
I got
care.
my interest, but you know what you're talking about. I live it.
Yeah. Go. Yeah. Yeah. So you understand this, right?
Yeah. Priorities.
Prioritize. That's exactly what this step is all about. Prioritizing what is important to us.
Yeah.
And in going back to the bird song, turn, 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 I'm going to argue that the way that the experts, the quote-unquote experts, talk about it is flawed. And what you're talking about is more in line with my personal philosophy in that you prioritize. And it goes back to the bird song of seasons. To every time there is a season. A season could literally mean, what do I want to accomplish this summer or this fall or this winter? But a season could also be, what do you want to accomplish for this week? A week could be a season. A season could be a month. A season could be an entire year. I'm currently on a 5-year season. So for this season, I'm focusing on certain things that I want to get done. So I'm prioritizing. Just as as you suggested. So instead of listening to the experts and completely ignoring two of our burners, what I'm advocating for is identifying your one absolute non-negotiable burner, which I've already identified. For me, it's health. I think that's an obvious one, but perhaps yours is something else. Maybe your burner is family. Maybe your burner is friends. And then we identify a major goal that we'd like to accomplish during that season. So maybe your major goal happens to be spending more time with family. Maybe it means focusing on your friends. Maybe it's focusing on your work. So the idea is to keep those two burners cranked up. Especially the number one burner has to be turned up the entire time. Your major goal burner will be up most of the time. However, the other two burners will be on, they won't be turned off completely. You're going to keep those ones on so that they don't grow cold. And then we schedule blocks of time throughout this season where we turn down our major goal burners so that we can turn up some of the other ones. Again, prioritizing. So that it prevents us from getting burnt out. I know if I'm focusing on one thing constantly, I could very easily get burnt out. I'm sure we've had experiences of this in our lives where you can just completely get burnt out by running on at 100% the whole time. Now, once the major goal has been accomplished, we can then go back and evaluate our results and know what went well, what didn't go well, what needs adjusted, and then go back to the beginning of the process and repeat, maybe focusing on a different major goal with a different burner. So the question becomes, what are your natural tendencies? Is your natural tendency to play? Is it to plan? And what kind of changes can you make to include more of the other if you've been focusing too much on one? Another question, what burners have you been focusing on lately? What is your non-negotiable? Again, for me, it's health. And that's an easy one for me because you can focus on your health by just choosing healthy food. You can do that by playing sports. For me, I like to run. Actually, I don't like running. But what I do like running, I like the social aspect of going to like races and like interacting with the other athletes.
That is the most important, because then you cannot achieve the other ones. Because if you're sick or if you're deceased, I told you. You cannot, you need health to accomplish the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you're on the same page with me. Yeah. For a long time, I did not agree with that. For a long time, I ignored my health. It wasn't until just the past 5 years or so that I started to pay attention to my health, realizing I have one life to live. I have things I got to do. If I don't take care of myself, I can't do those things.
It's your wealth.
Your health is your wealth.
I've heard that a lot of old folks say that.
I've never heard that before.
I'm sure a lot of, yeah. That's true.
I like that.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And drink less acid and more seltzer.
Yeah, drink less acid.
There you go.
More water.
And one thing about it is you really can't shut off that little knob. If you want good health, it's it's like paying a lot of attention all the time. To if you don't run, I walk up the stairs. I mean, I've got to do that, especially the older you get. So I just thought I'd share that.
That's a very good point. This health burner is an easy one to keep cranked up by choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator. I like to park in the furthest spot in the parking lot at a store, so I have to walk a longer distance.
Paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are little things that, when compounded every day, your health is your wealth. I really like that.
I do too.
Yeah. All right, so the first step to being positive, P, plan, play, and pursue each day. The O, open your mind, open your heart, open your life to a world of possibilities. I like this one because so often we keep ourselves closed off to living life by default rather than by design. Default meaning we just base everything we do on the way that we've always done things, the way our preconceived notions of things. But keeping an open mind and open heart allows us to be open to other possibilities. So this is possibility thinking. I'm reminded of the story of the zebras and the horseflies of Africa. Have you ever heard this story? The zebras?
Tell me more.
So scientists, I was reading a National Geographic article. They say that the horseflies, the blood-sucking horseflies of Africa, terrorize every living creature in Africa except for one, the zebra. And this puzzled scientists for years. Their best guess theory, as of recently, according to this article, is that the reason the horseflies don't bother the zebras, it's their stripes. It confuses the zebra. It's something to do with the way the light reflects off of their coat. They're looking for dinner, they're looking for a meal, but the zebras don't look like what they think they want. I'm getting chills. Because the question becomes, what's our zebra? What are we looking for? What do we want? But we have this preconceived notion of what it should look like, that it might be right in front of us. This thing that we want might be right in front of us. But what aren't we seeing? What is our zebra? There's one of my favorite stories is the story of the playing card company that was, as a magician, I love playing cards, so I use playing cards constantly. I have like hundreds of decks at home because I go through so many of them. So I love this story about this playing card company founded in the 1800s in Japan. And they had lots of success in Japan, but by the 1950s, they wanted to expand their company globally. So the president of the company went to the biggest manufacturer of playing cards in the world at the time, and I think actually they still are today. It's the United States Playing Card Company in Ohio. So the president of this little Japanese company went to the biggest company, and he recognized that he was not going to have the kind of success that he wanted in the playing card industry, because when he got to the meeting at their global office in Ohio, they're operating out of a little tiny office. They're like, this is not the kind of success we want. Their dreams were bigger. And the way that they were originally going about it, by default, playing cards, they realized that their success was not going to happen by their default playing cards. They were going to have to design a different way of getting this success. So they designed, they were looking to other possibilities. They were open to other suggestions. So one of their employees started to experiment with electronics. And it's a good thing that they started to make these changes early, because within 10 years from that meeting, sales of playing cards plummeted worldwide. But by that time, because they had already started to design some new ideas, they had already started to compete in a new type of industry, in the electronic gaming industry, which snowballed over the ensuing decades into the multi-billion-dollar company that we now know today as Nintendo. The Nintendo Playing Card Company, as they were originally called, when they were founded over 100 years ago, if they had kept to business as usual and not stayed open to other ideas, there's no way they would have experienced the explosive growth that they did. And there's no way that we would probably even know the name Nintendo. Interestingly, they still manufacture playing cards, but it's a very small division of their company. So with that in mind, here it is. I have a little fun experiment that I like to play. And I'm not much of a mathematician, but I have been practicing a different type of math, a certain kind of math, for a little while. And I would like to suggest that perhaps Anne could help us out with this. I'm going to draw on this card. Let's see do this. A little bit more. All right. Doesn't look like much. It's a little grid. I'm going to put numbers into this grid. So we have a series of 16 different squares. Actually, you know, technically they're rectangles. But it's more than 60. There's actually 30 rectangles here because you could take the individual ones, but you could take 4 by 4 to make a rectangle. You could take 3 by 3 to make a rectangle. You could take the whole thing as a, so there's 30 different rectangles here.
I'm intimidated already.
Oh, no. This is very simple. All you have to do, Leanne, is name any 2-digit number. Which number would you like to use?
2 and 4.
2 and 4. So 2 and 4. So your number is 24. I'm going to fill in this grid and see how many times I can write the number 24. I'm going to time and see how long it takes me to do this. Let me get my stopwatch out. All right. And oh, that's my clock. All right. I'm going to start this and see how long it takes me. I'm actually going to make some more squares here. We're doing 24. All right. It took me 44.85 seconds. We're going to see how this worked. I did 3 by 4 instead of 4 by 4. So we have 8, 11, 2, and 3, 1, 4, 7, 12, 5, 4, 9, and 6, and then we have 10, 5, 6, and 3. How many times do we see the number 24 here? What do you think, Anne?
No, I kind of can see that very well.
Oh, okay. So let's consider this here. I'll hold it up so that the camera can also see.
Yeah.
So we have, yeah. So we have the columns as well. So let's start with the columns. And we have 8 plus 1 is 9.
Yeah, 14.
14 plus 10 is 24. And then 11 plus 4 is 15. Plus 4 is 19. Plus 5. 2 plus 7, 8, plus 9 is 18. Plus 6 is.
Yeah.
And then 3 plus 12 is 15. Plus 6 is 21. Plus 3 is 24.
Wow.
So that's all the columns, but the rows as well. 8 plus 11 plus 2 plus 3 is 24. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 7 plus 12 is 24.
It's magic, isn't it?
It is magic. Oh, thank you very much.
I'm so impressed. Numbers.
Possibility thing. I'm terrible at numbers. I have to focus on this to learn this.
Well,
So that's all the rows, all the columns, but also the diagonals. 8 plus 4 plus 9 plus 3 is 24. 10 plus 4 is 14, plus 7 plus 3 is 24. So that's all the diagonals. Remember, you can take 4 squares together. 8 plus 1 plus 4 plus 11 is 24. 5 plus 4 plus 10 plus 5 is 24. Now remember, it's magic everywhere.
that is so incredible.
Oh, I almost forgot. The 4 corners. 8 plus 10 is 18. Plus 3 is 21. Plus 3 is 24.
It's pretty
That's for
incredible.
you, Anne.
Oh, well, I treasure that.
Thank you very much for
Yeah,
your help.
that's beautiful.
Possibility thinking. Open your mind, open your heart to a world of opportunities.
I had just an input here.
Oh, please, yeah.
You know, about playing and planning and everything like this. I don't plan on playing. It's not in my thing. You know, it just isn't. I've got a problem with that. I've always been brought up. Recently, I'm watching PBS, because I watched Ruzawa and the serious things. And they had the kids program, kids of PBS. It wasn't Sesame Street. There's a little girl at a table. She was being interviewed. It was hilarious. Hilarious. So I'm open-minded. I'm going to be watching the kids show from now on. I'm going to be picking up on that. I really had a wonderful time watching that little kid. It was and then they had a show on philosophy, big ideas for little kids.
I haven't heard that.
And that was incredible, philosophy class. So I have a whole different open kind of thing on that, open-mindedness.
So you have entered a season of your life
I hope so.
where you are now not just planning, but
It's positive.
taking time.
I hope.
It seems like it.
It's good.
I love it. Thank you very much for sharing that. I love stories like that of what's that?
It was just special. I couldn't believe I was having such a good time.
You're a special person.
PBS is pretty special.
Absolutely. So, planning, playing, and pursuing. You're already starting to play. Open your heart, open your mind to a world of opportunities. You are now open to that possibility. The S in positive, this is one of my favorites. Stimulate your passions. Stimulate your passion. We're going to get into a little bit of semantics here as well, because I define passions as the intersection of your natural innate talents mixed with your areas of interest, but also with the learned skills that you have. Now you learn skills even if things don't interest you, like when you were a little kid, you went to school, you learned skills, whether you were naturally talented in them or not, whether you were interested or not, they forced you to learn those skills. You get a job, you get a new job, every job you get, you pick up new skills along the way. Stimulate your passions suggests a more intentional way of going about learning new skills, based off of the intersection, again, of our natural talents, what we naturally do well, and our natural interests, the things that get us excited, the things that we think about when we should be thinking about other things, the things that really put a fire in us. It's said that the most successful people start with a dominant talent and then add skills, knowledge, and practice into the mix. I was reading a book recently, a book by Brendan Burchard. It's a book that Amazon just rated one of the top 3 business books of 2017, a book called High Performance Habits. And he says on this topic, a Super Bowl winning quarterback doesn't just know how to throw a ball. He has had to master mental toughness, nutrition, self-discipline, contract negotiations, brand building, and so on. Someone who reaches high performance in any career must have competence in many of the areas that touch that career. It's not just about throwing a ball. Those who stop at throwing the ball, because there are people who maybe they have a natural talent for throwing the ball, but they don't have the self-discipline to learn those periphery skills along the way. There's a saying that I used to take issue with called, it says bloom where you're planted. You ever heard this? Bloom where you're planted. I used to take issue with this because I thought it advocated for not traveling, not leaving, just staying put where you are. I've recently come to understand bloom where you're planted has nothing to do with geography, but it has everything to do with your passions, your natural interests, and your natural talents. And just as a flower needs more than a seed and soil to grow, in this analogy, the seed will be our natural talents and the soil is our areas of interest. A flower needs more than just those 2 things. And so too do we need more to bloom to our full potential. We have to water our passions with peripheral skills and allow the seeds of our potential to bask in the sun of worthy guides, worthy mentors. In short, blooming where we are planted is not a call to bondage in inactivity, but rather a call to adventure, a call to grow, to become more fully human by blooming into the person that we were born to be. I get chills thinking about this. This is something I used to take issue with. Now I'm excited about this because it doesn't mean just stay put like a tree and don't go anywhere. No, it's grow into a full, who you were most made to become. I have a little magic trick. This is my favorite magic trick that really illustrates what we're talking about. And do you like money?
Sure.
I like the smile. Little smirk. You can take a look at this. Make sure that really is what that looks like. What does that look like?
Looks like a dollar bill.
It looks like a dollar bill, so it must be a dollar bill. Now watch close. This dollar bill is going to... she's not so willing to give it back.
You may not get it back.
Okay.
May I? She's fun. This dollar bill represents the seed of of where we are, our natural talents. But with that seed, we can grow to become more than just a dollar bill. If we bloom where we're planted, we can grow to become so much more. What do you think this is going to grow into?
A $10 bill?
You know what I like about your thinking? It's realistic. I'm more unrealistic. I shoot for the stars. You may take a look at this, Ann. What does that look like?
It looks like 100.
Is that a real $100 bill? No, she says. It's not a real $100 bill? No.
No.
Yes.
I say tomato, you say tomato?
Tomato.
100.
100. You know,
100 is like a different color.
well, these are the new ones. Yeah, they've come out with new $100 bills. I think it's to prevent people like me from copying them. But, however, this is hopeful thinking again. This is not wishful thinking. Wishful thinking again wants a better future, but does nothing to make things better. Hopeful thinking desires a brighter future and then sets into action to make it happen. So this is hopeful thinking right now, taking our seeds of talents and interests and put them together to create something more than we are. However, I'm also realistic. Is that because right now, it's just the seed of an idea.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for your help.
Well, thank you for your magical thinking.
Oh, you're very welcome. I love magical thinking. That's right. So that's the idea about blooming where you are planted. To become most fully human, to become most fully who we were born to be, it will never be by focusing or prioritizing, to use that terminology, prioritizing where our strengths are not. If we seek to do work in areas that have no interest to us, yes, we may be responsible and have a job and make money to support ourselves and those that we love, but we will never be able to bloom fully where we're planted, because that's not where we were planted. We were planted for so much more. Now this is easy, it's easy to say, but why doesn't everyone live like this? And as far as I've discovered, there are 4 reasons why people do not bloom where they're planted, that they do not stimulate their passions. And it's because some people are discouraged by others. Ain't that the truth?
That's where family comes in.
Oftentimes that's the case. Well-meaning family sometimes not so well-meaning. But there was a story of I forget when it was, but scientists were doing this study. So they had this experiment where they took a monkey and they put the monkey into this enclosed area that had a pole, and on top of the pole was a bunch of bananas. And of course, the monkey wanted to eat the bananas. So, but as soon as the monkey went to climb the pole to get the bananas, the scientist took a hose and squirt the monkey, and so the monkey couldn't get the bananas. And every time the monkey tried to go for the bananas, they kept squirting the monkey until the monkey just decided, I don't want the bananas, it's not worth it. So then, the scientists introduced a second monkey. And the second monkey also wanted the bananas. But as soon as the second monkey went for the bananas, the scientists did not have to squirt the water. The first monkey discouraged that second monkey from going after the bananas. It kept slapping the monkey down. Yeah. So then they introduced a third monkey. And this third monkey came in, and even though that second monkey had no idea why they weren't supposed to get the bananas, that second monkey also discouraged the third monkey from going after the bananas. But now they slowly started to remove the monkeys. They removed the first monkey. So now it was just the second and the third monkey. And then they introduced a fourth monkey. And even though they had no reason to be discouraged, they didn't know why, they just knew, oh, it's not going to work out because it didn't work out for my other friends. That's why people, it's with monkeys, it's with us too. People who, they discourage us even if they haven't had any failure or experience in those areas. They discourage us just because they've heard about others who were not able to have a successful outcome. I hear you. Do you have a story about this? Okay. It looks like you're on the cusp of.
What is I'm living it?
Oh, you're living it right now.
Yeah.
So you're a monkey being slapped.
Yeah, but I refuse to take the steps.
You refuse to be discouraged.
Yeah, to go fiercely.
I like that.
I thought maybe that fourth monkey was going to start climbing up on top of the third and the second and the first one and get up to those bananas. If you're not up there, I'm going to get on top of you and get up there. He didn't do that.
Yeah. You're going to be the successful monkey.
You are. You can be motivated. To thine own self be true, as they say.
And that's what it does take. Though we're so often easily discouraged, it does take this fearless courage to get over that criticism or the discouragement and just boldly step forward and do it anyway. So that is what it takes in those circumstances. Now, there's another reason why people don't live this way, and that's because they are hurt by past disappointment. Maybe they were able to get the bananas, but the bananas were rotten. So it might be a situation like that. So we live by the false belief that all bananas are rotten. That's just one example. That's just one experience. That doesn't mean that someone else going after banana aren't going to find ripe bananas. Now, it's often said that the disappointment is the gap between expectation and reality. And this gap is often a source of negativity. It's a source of dragging us down rather than lifting us up. The third reason why people don't live this way, and this is one that I've struggled with throughout my life, is some people settle for average. They settle for average. The writer Maureen Dowd says, the minute you settle for less than you deserve, you get even less than you settled for. This is one that I've struggled with because for many years, I was content with where I was. I was content with being good. I'm good. I'm not all that great, but I'm good. I was very content with that. Until I realized that I was living by this false assumption. Now, the reason I live this way, a friend of mine, a well-meaning friend of mine and mentor, and I don't think he meant for me to take it this far. He once told me, after seeing a magic show, that this magician was just fantastic. He was highly skilled, technically, but also very entertaining, very funny. I walked away from the experience in pain, literally in pain, from smiling so much and laughing so hard. Like my face hurt, my gut hurt. This show was fantastic. So my friend who was with me, he said, Jonas, don't let the great be the enemy of the good. Which means just because someone somewhere is better than you at something, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go after it as well. You're good. Keep going. But then I took that too far, and I realized, well, I don't have to be great. I can just be good. And I have a fun little magic trick that really talks about this. Do you folks like puzzles?
I don't like magic. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I like your philosophy,
Yeah.
but I don't
Well,
like magic.
this is more of a puzzle, really. And I hate puzzles, though. And the reason I hate puzzles is because I can never figure them out. You know, in fact, this puzzle is one that I avoided when I was a little boy. I avoided it like the plague because I thought it was beneath my dignity as a human person. I said, no. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, I hate this too. Have you ever solved this?
I can never solve it.
No? Have you ever solved this?
I saw you solve.
I have. Yes, you have seen
You do a
me
very good
solve
job.
this.
The little tiny one.
Oh yes, and that's exactly right. So I avoided the Rubik's Cube until I realized I had taken the philosophy too far of not letting the great be the enemy of the good. I avoided greatness by being good, but when I realized I was being held back by it, I decided to return to some things that earlier in life I had passed up on, such as the Rubik's Cube. Things such as I went back to college. I had dropped out of college early on, but I decided to go back to finish what I'd started and to go back to things that were too difficult for me at the time, but then taking the time to pursue greatness. But just like anything in life, if you want to do something big, you don't just start off big. Like if you want to become a runner, you don't start off by running a marathon. It's a recipe for disappointment. If you want to become a bicyclist, you don't start off by riding 3,000 miles across the country. It's actually something that I tried to do once. Didn't work out. I hadn't been on a bicycle in years, and I headed to California. I made it to Connecticut. You have to start small. It's true. So that's what I did. I started small.
There's no difference.
You see, that's the absurdity of this, right? It's a regulation style cube. It's just in adorable size. And what's your name?
Richard.
Richard. Nice to see you, Richard. Jonas. Nice to see you. So Richard, what you're going to do is just sort of mix it up. Don't try and solve it, but just mix up all the colors. And the reason I'm going to have you mix it up is because there's, I had to look this up. There's 44 quintillion different color combinations that you can make with the Rubik's Cube. With every turn that you make with the cube, you make one of the 44 quintillion different possibilities. I didn't know that quintillion was even a number. That's 44 with 18 zeros after it. If you had a regulation cube, sized cube, for every possibility, it would cover the entire Earth's surface over 275 times.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy. The different possibilities, the power of this cube. Are the colors mixed? Are the colors mixed up? Good.
Give me some paint.
That's one way to solve this. Get some paint, maybe take all the stickers off and reapply them. That's one way to do this. Now I'm going to solve this cube. Now Anne, you've seen me do this. I have a different kind of way of solving the cube Go. The world record is just about 5 seconds. If you go onto YouTube, you can see a video of someone solving it. It looks like a camera trick. It's a mixed up cube and then it's solved. It's crazy. I can't solve it that fast, but I have my own kind of record that I'd like to show you. I'm going to time this again. Does anyone have a watch with a second hand? Or I have a stopwatch app I can bring up. Okay, I'm going to time and see how long it takes. And just take one little look. All right, I'm going to go. And stop there. All right, so 18.63 3 seconds to verify. I was doing this a couple weeks ago for a group. I did it in 21 point something seconds. I already beat my most recent record. Take a look.
No.
Now I know it doesn't look solved.
And did you put something in your pocket and take that out of your pocket or something? Or how did you do that?
It doesn't look solved. However, it is solved in a different kind of way. Think about this. The traditional way of solving the cube is like getting all the yellow squares on one side, all the blue, so every side has the same color. That's the traditional way. However, that's only one of the 44 quintillion different color combinations that you could make. So what I do to not settle for good, but to go shoot for greatness, I decide on a different color combination. And then I solve it for that combination instead. And this is the combination that I decided to do today. Make sense? You look confused.
Well, I'm not.
Well,
Tell us more.
okay, I'm going to tell you more. This is only partially true. What I told you, it's true, but there's something more to it. I didn't decide on this color combination. See, Richard, you decided.
Decide what?
You decided on this color combination. Take a look.
Both the same. Oh, yeah.
Not just on one
Yeah,
side,
it's the same.
See?
but on this side as well.
Yes.
And on this side. And on that side. And also the top. And the bottom as well. Every side of the cube matches.
Yes.
No way.
Way. Thank you very much, Richard. Big hand for Richard. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with it. That's the thing. It's not planned at all. It's not planned.
Yeah, we didn't prearrange this, did we?
Yeah, I understand. I mean,
You see, doing what's expected, that's good enough. Doing more than expected, that's where greatness is. Thank you again, Richard.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, I just realized we are horribly over time, but we did get through the first few steps for being positive. We talked about stimulating our passions and the reasons why people don't do that. People are discouraged. People are discouraged by past experience, past hurts. People settling for average. And in the last part is some people lack confidence. If you lack confidence, if you don't think you can do something, you're not going to do it. To combat that, I do something called can I versus how can I. It sounds like the same question, but by adding the word how, it turns this inherent can I do it, it's this inherent doubt, to how can I do it, this inherent positivity, optimism about it, like it's possible. I just have to find the way, going back to possibility thinking. So we talked about stimulating our passions. We talked about staying open to new possibilities, open our heart, open our mind, and planning, playing, and pursuing each day by prioritizing. Now, there are more steps to this, so we're just going to have to come back next month and talk about the rest of them. And hopefully by next month, the book that this talk is based on will be published and ready to go. Hopefully, I have to hear back from the publisher, but we have 5 more steps to go. So I hope you folks can come back next time.
Stay tuned.
Any questions or comments or concerns or bits of business to talk about? Yeah.
it depends on when you threw that thing in the air. I saw a magic trick, and they have a lot of people that have help from another world, which is not very good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what
That's
you're
impossible. Some magic trick would be possible physically, fast hand, but there's no way you.
It's magic.
It could be. Not question. The powers that if you have other powers that help you with that.
What I can tell you is what I just did, you could too by by pure sleight of hand, skills, practice, you could do this too. This is something that I could not do. I learned this like 3 years ago. I took the time to finally figure out how to solve the cube. In order to do this, you do know how to solve the cube. But then once you learn how to solve the cube, then you have to figure out how to do it in such a way that it looks like you're doing it instantaneously. So there's patience of learning the various steps. It took me months to figure out my first song.
Oh, so
It's all...
you put it in your hand and then you...
Yeah, so it looks like it's just solving in the air. There's more to it than that. So I can assure you, there's no spirits helping me.
Yeah, that's what I was implying.
It's all sleight of hand. But settling for average, when I first learned about this trick, I said there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that because that's going to take too much effort and I don't have the patience to figure it out. So I said, can I do it? I said, no, I can't. But then I asked the more important question, how can I? And when I decided I didn't want to just be good anymore, I wanted to be great. That's when I decided to sit down and take the time and spend the months and months. And I still practice it. This is something that if I stop doing it, in a few months, I wouldn't be able to do it anymore. This is something that's a daily practice that I have to do every day. I have a Rubik's Cube on my nightstand. I have one on my desk. I keep one in my car. I keep one on my coffee table so that wherever I am, I just quickly solve it so I keep my skills honed. Yeah. I keep them sharpened. Yeah. So that's all that is. So it's going back. So this trick buys into the steps that we're talking about. And we can apply this not just to magic tricks, but we can apply it to all aspects of our lives. Whatever it is we're trying to do, whatever it is people are trying to discourage you with, you're saying no. You're fiercely doing it anyway, right? And you're prioritizing to make that happen. And you're keeping an open mind. Now you're watching those fun programs that you weren't open to.
Oh, yeah, it's fabulous. It's so fabulous. Yeah.
And it's a good feeling, right?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, very, very wonderful, very healthy.
I'm happy. I'm happy for all of us. I'm happy for all of you at home. Tune in next time to learn the next step to staying positive.
Yay.
Thank you. Everyone run around the room and clap.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
My mother was writing before I was born.
Yeah, you were
Jitsi,
born
you
on a
wrote a
horse.
book.
I've written 4 books.
4 books. I remember our conversation in the lobby talking about, yeah. It's good to see you again. Now it's all coming together. All the dots are connecting.
Right. Brattleboro, not compared to Demerton, but Brattleboro is just a small town.
That's true. I think that's what I like most about Brattleboro is, you know, I've started coming to this community years ago with my grandparents. You know, they might just say, oh, we're going to go have lunch in Brattleboro today. I'm like, okay. You know, I grew up in the Springfield area of Palmer, in the town of Palmer, and we would just go on these little trips. And so we would come here every now and again, and then for years I didn't come at all. But then in 2008, I think it was 2008, it was 2009, it was April 2009, I was looking for a venue to do one of my bigger magic shows, so I rented the New England Youth Theater, and I came to Brattleboro because I remembered it being a nice community, and it was a great show. And then when I had a new show just last year, the year before, I said, I'm going to come back to Brattleboro, and I've been back almost every month for the past year and a half. I've really fallen in love with the people and the...
Well, yeah, I mean, you walk down the street and you smile at somebody and they smile back because they don't know you. You know, it's just, people are friendly and for the most part, people for the most part are friendly and helpful, and if you drop something, they'll pick it up and hand it to you, not grab it and run off. And you know, you can leave your pocketbook on your chair and it'll still be there when you come back.
Yeah.
It's very different from, it's a very caring community on the whole. Nice
Yes, you
together.
did say some nice things about Brattleboro last time, about the people of Brattleboro, and then you contrasted that with having done a show in Springfield where they need a little education and
Yeah, actually, no, I
politeness.
did a show in Pittsburgh. I don't know if I told this one. I did this
Yes.
was like 10 years ago. I was on tour with a band. I was their opening act doing my magic show.
Yeah.
And it was just before I was going to go on. Like I had helped unload all the band's equipment. I think that's why they brought me really, was to help be the arm, you know, for everyone. But so I helped unload all their stuff. They were getting set up. I was supposed to go on as they were setting up, so I could warm up the crowd. So I ran outside to get my suitcase, and just as I got outside, I was mugged. These two guys came up from behind me and mugged me. And, you know, this was down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I'd never been before, so this was my introduction to the city. And I was like, well, I kind of want to go home now.
And never come back.
Yeah, I don't think I have been back. Actually, you know, I did go back, I think maybe once. But it was just a drive in, drive out.
Well, of course, it's all over. When I was very young, back in the early 1950s, late 40s, early 50s, I was working in New York. And it was, you know, you could walk from Grand Central up to,
Excuse me, we're about to
You know,
start a magic show. Would you like to be part of our audience?
I was like, okay, on 50th Street. I could walk out there and you could walk home sort of in the early evening. And
Yeah.
it was okay. It was safe.
Not
And
in-
then I went through a really bad period, but then it got pretty good again. But this town, I think, is just, what really gets me, here's this little dinky town, a little hick town in Vermont that has terrific art and music and theater and, I mean, you name it. The people that are here and the things they offer, you're lucky to find them at anything as good as New York. I mean, look at the art behind you. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this particular venue is that you have it all. You have the art. You have musicians coming in. You have speakers coming in and authors and all different types of
it's
things.
incredible.
And
In addition to everything, and nice stores with good clothes, but nothing out of sight. If you need anything really bad, you can go to Keene, but it's just an amazing place to live. Very nice. And, I mean, the museum, the theater, the music. You can know almost every day you could find something that you'd like to listen to or see or something. I love it. So let's do your thing.
Yeah, I think it's about that time. Oh yes, all right. Well,
I'm rolling.
you weren't here last time, but Russ was here, and the viewers at home will recall that last time we talked about positivity. Specifically, my latest book, Are You Positive? Positive is an acronym. So each letter in the word positive stands for one of the 8 steps that I've identified for for thinking, being, and staying positive. Because there's some misunderstanding about what it means to be positive. A lot of people think it's just about putting on rose-colored glasses, walking around pretending everything is fine and dandy, even when everything is...
When you're being attacked, when you're being mugged.
Even when you're being mugged. Yeah, and actually, when I was mugged, I'm the eternal optimist. I was able to make a joke out of it. I said, wow, now I know the true meaning of the name Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's awful.
Eternal optimist. It's like, well, I get a joke out of it at least. But yeah, so being positive would now mean honoring reality. Saying, okay, if there's a chance you're going to get mugged in Pittsburgh, maybe you should set yourself up to have a positive outcome. Maybe go outside with friends, make sure people are with you, or just wait till thugs aren't around. So being positive, it's so much more than just ignoring reality. It's more about,
You can't ignore reality and be positive. I mean, I suppose you can, but it's not going to get you anywhere because the reality is there.
and that's what a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand it, and that's why they say they don't put any stock in positivity. It's because they think it's people just being flighty, living in the clouds. But you are right. You can't be positive and ignore reality, because as I understand positivity, it's kind of a semantics thing. When we say that we're positive of something, we don't mean that we only wish something is true. We don't mean that we hope something is the way it is. It's because we are sure, because we know the truth, we're honoring reality. It means that we are confident. So to me, positivity is, it's a confidence. And you can't be confident and ignore reality. It has to be reflecting the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at your reality and there are things there that are not what you want, you have to decide what you're going to do about that.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's these 8 steps that I talk about in this book. And now last time we got up to 3, P.O.S. There's still the I.T.I.V.E. So I'll go over them quickly, and then we'll break them down. And I'd love to get your feedback on your experience with this, any ideas or things to help the viewers at home be more positive. So the first step to being positive is to plan, play, and pursue. Next is open your heart and mind. The S is stimulate your passions. I, identify your responsibilities. T, take consistent action. The second I, invest in worthy guides or mentors. V, volunteer your gifts. That's one of my favorite ones. And then the last one, E, expect surprises along the way.
That's very tactfully put.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. So much negativity comes when we have these ideas of what we want, of the way that things should be, but then we close ourselves off to the fact that surprises are going to happen. When we imagine a future event, we always imagine the wrong event, because nothing is ever as we think it's going to be. Nothing's ever going to work out the way that we hope it's going to be. It might still work out well, but it's not going to be exactly what we thought it was going to be.
in my rather long life, I've been through some really bad times, as we all have. And I look back and I think, yeah, but if that hadn't happened then, this wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be here where I want to be now.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the things that we plan on doing, their real value comes in what it gets us to do, and then what is inspired because of those actions. What we plan on doing isn't nearly as important as what actually happens. There's this game that I talk about in the book. It's something that I got from another book. It's called Pollyanna. It was written a long time ago, like early 1900s. And it's about this girl who invents this game called the Glad Game. And this girl, Pollyanna, the eternal optimist, much like me, I see a lot of myself in her. She's able to find something positive out of even unfortunate circumstances. In the book, the author talks about how, you know, this girl, how she came up with this game. And she came up with it because she wanted a doll, so she told her dad she really wanted a doll. So the dad went to like the general store, had them special order a doll, and then when the shipment came in, like however long it takes for general stores in the early 1900s to get shipments in, when it finally came in, they didn't have a doll, so the supplier sent, what did it send instead? It was, it was something ridiculous. It was not a doll. I think it was like Band-Aids or something. Oh, I wish I could remember what it was. Oh, okay, the Glad game. Yeah, well, finally, I've always wanted to write. So yeah, so how can? But she found a way to be glad about this, to be happy, even though it didn't turn out the way that she wanted. Oh, it wasn't diapers. It was a pair of crutches. That's what it was. The guy sent a pair of crutches. And so as she was explaining this strategy to her friend was like, well, I don't see anything to be happy about or glad about getting a pair of crutches when you want a doll. And she says, why, just be glad because you don't need them. You can be glad that you don't need the crutches. So that's what she was able to put a positive spin on things.
Yeah.
Honoring reality, the fact that I don't need crutches. We could, of course, focus on the fact that we don't have the doll that we wanted, but she's instead turning it onto the fact that I don't need crutches. So finding something in any situation to be glad about. Things might not work out as planned, but they lead to other things. Just as you were saying, one of the things that happened in my own life, I ended up getting married to this wonderful woman, and then like a year later, she decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. So, of course, this is an unfortunate circumstance. It did not work out the way I had planned, or the way that she had planned, I suppose. But instead of looking at what I had lost, instead of looking at the way things had worked out versus the way I wanted them to work out, I was able to see that, well, I've been able to grow as an individual, as a man. I'm now a much more responsible person, because when you get married, you have to be responsible. It's no longer just you, but you're responsible for each other now. So I was able to see that sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And I learned that this unfortunate circumstances, it still led me to become a better person because of it.
Yeah, I see that. And well, very often, I think for a lot of people, the first marriage is a matter of luck.
If it works out, it is lucky.
Yeah, my first marriage did not work out for a variety of reasons, but I got my two wonderful children from that first marriage. And when I married again, it was a situation where we wouldn't have had any more, we probably wouldn't have had children. But even though we didn't click, our genes clicked to produce, I have two wonderful kids and 4 wonderful grandkids. So.
It's the glad game.
Yeah.
Right there. It worked out just as it needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. Absolutely.
And in my second marriage, I found the husband that I needed, and it was the father that my children needed. So.
So it worked out not just for you, but it worked out for your kids as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I have so many notes to go with what we're talking about. So we've talked a lot about the surprises, the glad game, how things don't work out as planned, but things work out as they need to anyway. We talked about the semantics of positivity, how it's a confidence. All right, so let's pick up where we left off last time. We already said plan, play, and pursue, meaning don't just play all day.
I didn't hear what you said the first.
So plan, play, and pursue.
Plan, play, pursue.
Yes, and the reason that I put these 3 in the first step is because some people, they're just planning their whole life, and they don't actually take the time to enjoy their life. On the flip side of the coin, there's people who don't plan at all, and they just play the whole time, and then they never grow into the person that they could be. So there's that balance between planning like you're going to live forever, playing like you're going to die tomorrow. It's that sort of tension. It's almost like a balance, but it allows us to pursue every day the gifts that each day has for us. I get a warm, fuzzy feeling when I think about this.
And the gifts that we had to offer. And the gifts that we had to offer.
Absolutely. And cultivating those gifts so we can share them with others. You know, you as a expert horseback rider, you know, it's one thing to be able to do it yourself, but then to be able to give others the gift of this.
Well, the interesting thing about that, if I can just talk about myself for a second,
Absolutely.
was that I mean, grew up, my mother had horses, and when the Depression came, she started teaching riding so she could pay for her horses. And I was born in the depths of the Depression. So I grew up with horses, and then when my first marriage was getting a little rocky, I had been teaching off and on when I was with my mother, but I went back to teaching. And until I was 60, I thought that I was teaching riding because I was a horse person. And it wasn't until I was in my 60s that I realized that what I was a teacher. And I taught horseback riding because that's what I knew about. But what I really am is a teacher. I mean, I like horses, but I don't care if I never ride again. Because that's not. Although riding is one of the very few sports that you can do for your entire life. As long as you can sit up, you can ride. The woman that started therapeutic riding, Danish woman, won 2 Olympic gold medals. She was almost a quadriplegic.
That's incredible.
Because what you do on a horse, I mean, the horse does it. What you do is tell him what you want and develop a relationship so that he will do this, so that he wants to please you, basically. And so he understands you. So she didn't do the training, but she did do the riding.
It's amazing.
So it's amazing. So, back to your...
Yeah, you know, you bring up a very good point about this idea that what you're doing, what you think you're doing versus what you're really doing. I've often said, it's a realization that I've come to, especially over the past couple of years, is that truly we are all teachers.
Yeah.
Even if we're not in a classroom, even if we're not in front of a room or in front of a group, we all have something that we can teach others. You know,
Good or bad.
Good examples and bad examples.
Like the people that mugged you.
Oh, yes, those muggers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are terrible, terrible examples. But they did teach me a lot. They taught me a lot about people, and interestingly, so they taught me a lot. And then right after that experience, when I went back into the club, because they didn't steal my suitcase, thankfully, so I went into the club, did my show, but I started off the show by telling everyone. So I was just mugged outside. Of course, everyone thought it was part of the show. They didn't think I was really mugged. I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I lost all my money. I want to go home. And that's what they did. So I saw the awful side of humanity with these people. They have this scarcity mindset. They think they have to take what's not theirs, because if they don't take it, then they're not going to have. But then I saw the other side, people who realized that we are a community. We all get by with help from each other. So they literally passed the hat around. Now, it didn't matter how much money got into the hat. It wasn't much. But the fact that they did that, that erased
A lot of
that negativity that I had just received.
Right.
So I was like, well, Pittsburgh isn't as bad as...
Not all Pittsburgh is like that.
Yeah. We all have something to teach. And I think it's in Mark in the Bible. It tells a story about how everyone was looking down on this woman because she only gave pennies. She just gave pennies as like a donation to whatever charity. And all the rich people were like, well, what did she give? And as the story goes, someone said, well, you folks just gave a little tiny portion of what you have. This woman, she gave everything that she has.
Yeah.
So she, even though she only gave pennies, gave much, much more.
Yeah.
And things like that, you know, running into stories of where people who don't have much are helping other people out. It's a beautiful thing, and I get goosebumps just thinking about what message that's sending out to other people. sharing their gifts. Those are people who are pursuing each day for the gifts that the days have and for the gifts that they can give others, they can share with everyone.
And be much happier for it.
Absolutely.
So we wandered off track, right?
Okay, yeah,
Where did we wander off track?
So that was plan, play, and pursue. And then the other one is open your heart, open your mind, open yourself up to a world of opportunities. And this one I put in here because so often we close ourselves off to possibilities. It's almost related to the last step of expecting surprises along the way, but so often we miss opportunities because it doesn't look like what we think we're looking for. And in the book I talk about how scientists have recently discovered, their best guess anyway, that mosquitoes, it's the horseflies of Africa don't bite zebras.
Even though zebras are equines.
Even though, yeah, they don't bite the zebras. And this confused the scientists for years. They had no understanding about why this could possibly be, but with recent study and research, their current best guess, it has to do with the zebra stripes. Something to do with the way that the light reflects, like the polarized light that reflects off of the zebra's coat. I don't know I'm not a scientist, I don't know the science behind this, but according to the scientists, that the light, it confuses the horseflies. So even though they're looking for a meal, they don't see a meal that's right in front of them because it doesn't look like what they think they're looking for. So they're missing an opportunity. I love that story. I don't know, the scientists aren't even sure if that's right, but that's their current best guess. The fact remains the horseflies don't bite zebras, or at least as much as they do horses.
You could look at that from both sides, that the zebra's getting away with something. But the horsefly is missing something, he doesn't have to miss it because he's looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah.
If he only knew. So if he were able to look at it in a different way, he might find himself some lunch.
If he were, he'd be able to get a lunch, he'd be able to open himself up to the other opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we have to open ourselves up to these things. And then the last point that we talked about last time was stimulate your passions. Now, what I mean by this, and this is one of my favorite steps, well, they're all my favorite steps, but I really like this one because it's pretty well established that people like to focus on what they do well. Because they do it well.
Yeah, of course.
And if you can do it well, then it makes you feel good that you're contributing in a way. But there's a step beyond just doing what you do well. It's what I call stimulating your passions. And I define passions as your natural gifts, your natural talents, the things you do well, plus your natural areas of interest. So the things that you think about even when you should be thinking about other things.
Right.
So when you combine those things, that's passion. But to have passion alone isn't enough. We have to add something more. We have to stimulate our passions. And what I mean by stimulate is we have to be able to challenge ourselves, put ourselves into situations where we can grow, that we'll even end up having to learn new skills, maybe things that we're not that good at, but we add these skills to stimulate our passions. There's a book that I'm currently reading called High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. And in it, he talks about how a Super Bowl winning quarterback doesn't just know how to throw a ball, but he has to master mental toughness, nutrition, self-discipline, contract negotiations, brand building, and so on. Someone who reaches high performance in any career must have competence in many of the areas that touch that career.
That's
So
interesting for me,
okay.
because I have things that I want to do before, well, I'm still around to do them. And I haven't found the road yet. And I haven't figured out what I'm missing, that I'm not getting this done. I've been kind of looking for it. So, I know how to teach writing better in the entry level better than anybody that I've ever heard of, or that's ever written. And, well, there's some very important reasons in terms of safety, in terms of divorce, in terms of the whole concept, that are ruined by the way people are started. And I know how to change that, but I don't know how to, I haven't worked out the path I have to follow, you know, to get, I can't afford to go flying around the country doing things like that, so, and my age is a little bit limiting. So I'm in this sort of constant turmoil.
So you're trying to figure out a way to be able to take your teachings and share it with more people. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, other than just writing, because you have to do more than write. I mean, I do write, but mostly you have to do is you really need to talk to people one-on-one and get them to listen to you. And I have various entries, but I just really haven't quite, for some reason, I'm not quite going there.
You know, that brings me to an idea that is not in the book, but it's an idea that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And it's this difference between the ideas that we have, of course, and then seeing them come to fruition. And it's difference between
Being from here to there.
yeah, and it's this gap.
Where is this path? What is this path?
Yeah,
Where do I have to go to get from here to there? I know where I know where I should be.
yeah.
I know where I am. And I see things that I should do, but I just don't know where to start, really.
Okay, so it's a matter of knowing the place that you need to start in order to get the momentum going.
Right.
Yeah. So this is an idea that I heard a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. and it really ties into this. He says that the difference between dreamers and visionaries is that dreamers have their eyes closed while visionaries have their eyes open. And the idea being is that having the idea, having the dream, having the goal in mind, that's important. You know, we need that because without that, there's no way we're going to be able to do anything. There was an author, and Pulitzer Prize winner Carl Sandburg. He said that nothing happens but first a dream, right? So we have the dream, but a dream without vision has no chance of becoming a success. So one of the problems with dreamers that a lot of people say is a problem, I don't see it as a problem as long as we go the next step, but the problem is they say that dreamers just live in the clouds. You know, they're just living in a fantasy world. But that's an important thing though, to be in the clouds, because that dreamers know that that's where you are able to get the good view of things. You know, instead of getting the ant's eye view, they climb high to get the eagle's eye view of things. So they get this view of things not just for how they are, but for how they could be. They see things that people who aren't dreaming can't see because they're too wrapped up in day to day. So we have this dream. If we're a dreamer, we see things other people can't see. But this becomes a problem when we're not able to identify and articulate those individual steps to bring that idea, that dream, that goal into a reality. So an important thing to do is for a dreamer to either have a team that also has a visionary, or that dreamer has to become a visionary themselves. But oftentimes all visionaries are dreamers. Even if they don't, even if they aren't the originator of the dream, all visionaries are at least buyers of the dream. They believe in the dream. But not all dreamers are visionaries. They might buy into the vision, but they weren't able to create that vision. They weren't able to articulate it.
Take that
So
step.
yeah, so it's dreaming is important, but vision identifies and articulates those different steps. So I know for me, I've spent most of my life, well, I am a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. And for me personally, I know that I have to seek out, actually that's another one of the steps, I have to seek out, invest in worthy guides in order to figure out how to take these ideas that I have and turn them into a reality. And which is interesting because I also see myself as a guide, as a mentor, as a teacher. You know, I do a lot of mentoring to younger kids and also to going into companies and doing these sort of things. But in order to get those invitations, I have to get help to figure out how to get those invitations.
That's the thing that's hard.
Yeah.
You know it's there and you know what you want to do, but you don't know how to get to your audience.
That's
Create an audience and that wants you. Really, what you have to do is to create an audience.
and I think in your case, I mean, I'm no expert on getting audiences to horseback riding teachers, but one thing that I know for myself, you know, in my own research and also seeking guides and mentors to help show me what I need to do is a lot. Everyone is online nowadays, and in the written word is great, but it's going to the shift of videos. People want to see videos.
So my daughter says.
Yeah.
The thing about it, actually, it's not the writers, it's the teachers, because it's a tough thing, and a lot of people, a great many people, take up teaching because they have horses and they think, you know, they can't afford them, so they think, well, I'll start teaching, and they have no idea what they're doing. And somewhere in there, they know they don't.
Yeah.
So they don't want to hear about it. And I find that I get much more rejection from teachers than I do from people.
That's surprising.
Well, not all of them, but there are quite a number of people who don't teach well and don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, it sounds like in that case, though, those are people who aren't interested necessarily in winning anything. You know, they just want to be able to keep doing what they're doing and slide by.
Well, of course, a lot of writing has to do with competition, so they are interested in
Oh,
winning
okay.
something. So, but it's mostly that they don't. I think probably, now that I'm thinking about it, talking about it, they know they're not very good. Somewhere in here, they know they don't know a lot, but they don't want to admit that even to themselves, because then they would have to realize that they had to change and get better, and they don't know how to do that.
I think they should be positive and honor reality. And going back to what we were talking about before, don't
Yeah.
ignore reality. Don't ignore the fact that there's things you need to work on.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I'm proud of, is that I've never minded admitting I didn't know. And I've totally changed my outlook about teaching at least 3 times in my life, where I came to something that was, I said, I'm in the wrong direction, I should be over here. And backed up and went around and got over here, and I've done that. And to me, that's what you do. But a lot of people don't.
That's how people get stuck in repetitive cycles, and they don't grow out of their situations, which sometimes they're in situations that serve them well at one point, but
One of the things that you could have a think about is it's okay to be wrong.
absolutely.
And a lot of people don't get that. It's okay, even if you've been wrong up to this point, okay, you didn't know anybody, you did it on purpose. So now you know that it's wrong, let's change what we do. Rather than saying, well, I I've been doing this way all my life, and I'm gonna keep on doing it that way, because that's the way I do it.
One of my favorite little tactics that helps me break free from that thing of, oh, this is the way I've always done it. Well, instead of saying, this is just the way I am, this is the way I've always done it, I instead say to myself, up until this point, this is how I've done it. Moving forward, I'm going to do it this way. Or I'm going
Now that I see this problem, this is what I have to do about it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. So up until this point. You know.
I think it's an important thing in what you're doing, to be, it's kind of thing to say to people, it's okay to be wrong. We're not perfect. What isn't okay is to realize you're wrong and not try and change.
Absolutely.
I think that's an important message.
I want to see your message getting out to the people who really need to hear your message, because I know you've written how many books? 4 books? 4 books? And, books are a fantastic way to be a positive influence in people. I mean, I've written a number of books too, so we all have something to share. We all have something to tell, because you're able to touch lives even if you never ever meet them. But you're right, it does only go so far. In order, for people to get to know about the book.
No, that's where I ran into a problem, because I had a publisher that I was working with, and I had animation, and then on a website a horse website, somebody advertised that he wanted to write a book for one of these companies that, this is sports, and I can't think of it, would even know the name if I could think of it, but, they publish exercise books for all kinds of different things, and they went over for horseback riding. So I wrote them one, and they never put it out there to the horse people. They just sort of put it on their list, and they never put it out to the horse people. It's a very, very good book.
What's it called?
It's called The Gentle Art of Horseback Riding.
The Gentle Art of Horseback Riding.
So what I want to do is to when my daughter said I should do, maybe coming to see you will kick my butt enough to decide that you actually do this, is to call my agent, the literary agent, and say, let's see if we can get this book back from these people, because they're not using it.
They're not doing anything with it.
They're not doing anything with it, and just some rewriting and some different pictures to like the photographs somehow, and put it out a little bit better, because there's a really good publisher here in Vermont that I want to be with, and see if I can get them to take it.
So it sounds like that's part of the details, and that's part of the little plans that should be done. Yeah, absolutely. Getting the book back. Getting in touch with the new publisher. I'm almost seeing, again, I'm not a marketing or expert at all, but I just the ideas that I'm getting for my own work, I could see you doing things where people come to you, to your school, your farm, whatever you have, and you have yourself being filmed, interviewing these people or talking to them, helping them, and then showing, and then sending this video, putting it up online.
Yep, that's what my daughter wants me to do.
Yeah, and so that way you don't have to fly anywhere, but then you're able to get these videos out, that you send them out to other places, and then it becomes, your place becomes a destination for people even across the country. Like, oh, this is, if I want to be the best, I have to go to the expert. I have to go to the #1 person teaching beginner horseback riding.
And they don't even really need to come there, because if they understand what they're doing, they can read it. I write pretty well. See, this is the way you do it.
You can read it, or
and because
video.
every individual, you can teach to a certain point, and there are certain things you have to make very clear, but every individual in every situation, if somebody is a little different, the horses are different, the situation is different, so everybody has to adjust things a little bit, and you're just trying to make the main points. These are the important things, and these are the adjustments you might have to make. There's a lot of the YouTube does. There's more people have got horse things on YouTube. There's a woman in Holland, in the Netherlands, that has a whole school that she does over the internet using YouTube or using videos. And people take, you know, they take tests and then they do videos of themselves doing things and they send them back and she says, yes, this is right, no, this is wrong, and so forth. And they pay her a lot of money for it too.
Could you model this in somehow, your own version of this?
I could, whether I would, I mean, this is the thing, that it's the creative energy that I'm lacking now, that I know.
I have some people in mind that might be able to help you with that. I'll let you know. I'll get your business card or your number, and
I've got one somewhere.
yeah. I like this. You know, we're thinking, we're being, and we're staying positive by, you know, on this idea of stimulating your passions. We're playing, pursuing each day. We're opening our minds and our hearts. And right now, we're working through, in real time, this idea of stimulating our passions, taking what we already do well, combined with what we're naturally interested with, our passions, and now stimulating our passions by challenging ourselves and putting us into situations where it's things that maybe we've never considered before, or maybe things that we're not comfortable with. They might even be our weaknesses. Like, I know for myself, what I know well, I know this material. I know how to be positive. I know how to get into any situation, put a positive spin on things, not by ignoring reality, but by honoring reality and finding a way to learn from every situation to have positive outcomes. But the thing that I don't do well, and it sounds like what you also don't do well, it's how to get that, how to connect yourself with the people who need to hear your message. And that's the step of where we are with stimulating our passions, putting ourselves out there to learn new things. With me, a big initiative that I started last year was I created a whole boatload of videos. I just have a little tiny, it's not even a studio at my magic office back home. But I just set up the camera and I do it like a 2 to 3 minute video talking about the magic word of the day, and I just put these out online and I just send them out, and not knowing if it's going to reach anyone, hoping that it does, but you know, but then I hear back from people. I'll get emails from people, I'll get phone calls, or I'll run into people and they'll say, hey, I see you all over social media. They say, I love your magic word series. You know, it's really helping me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm glad it's helping,
Yeah.
Because
That's the whole idea.
that's why I'm doing it. So I could see you doing something similar, even if it's as simple to start of creating these little short videos.
That's what my daughter wants to do, so you and she seem to be on the same page.
So it sounds like we know what the next step is, right? The next step is to start making these videos. The hardest part, though, and this is something that I talk about in another presentation, but I'll mention it here because it's worthwhile, is that one of the biggest gaps in our lives is the gap between what we know and what we do with what we know.
That's a very good point.
And it's dangerous. It's dangerous to say, oh, I already know this, or I already know all about that, or even saying I already do this, because the question becomes then, well, how well do you do it, and what have you been doing with this? So it sounds like the next step for me, the next step for you is to start making these videos.
That's what you and my daughter are on the same page. She's basically saying the same thing you are. You have to do this because she knows enough. Well, let me put it to you this way. This is what really got me going into this. For every 7,000 motorcycle rides, there's one serious accident. For every 650 horseback rides, there's one serious accident. And that's insane. Horses are the most caring. If you know what you're doing, they're the most caring. I've seen horses just go out of their way to keep from hurting the person in a situation where they might roll on them or might actually step on them or kick them, and just do everything they can not to do it. And it's tragic. And not only that, it's expensive, the insurance rates for horse people, the only people that, it used to be true, probably still is, the only people that pay more insurance, you know, liability insurance than horse people are steeplejacks.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's where it used to be, I don't know where it still is, but that's where it was, because the accident rate is so dreadful. Remember I was telling you about this instructor that you want to hear about it from me. Somebody I knew that worked in the rescue that was nearest to her stable, so they went over there every week, practically.
Wow.
So, you know, and and then there's two sides of it. I mean, part of the gimmick is learning not only how to ride the horse, but also how to get along with the horse. And I mean, this whole thing of get out of here, move over, bang, you know, that kind of teaching and training is stupid.
Knowing how to deal with not just other people, but with animals too. You know, whoever you're working with, it's not just the task that you're doing, but it's being able to get along. Now, you know, you have to have that.
Well, particularly with somebody that weighs probably 10 times as much as you do.
You especially want to be nice. Well, I'm being cognizant of the time. What I would like to do is...
I am too, because I have an appointment at, see, she's coming at 2 o'clock.
Well, what I would like to do then is I would like to end with a magic trick.
Oh, good, please,
So-
that's what I came for.
I have a magic trick. I mean, we've met today. We've met a couple times before. You came to some of my other shows in town, but I got to know you a lot better today.
Well, yeah, because it was just you and me.
So, you know, it's an intimate.
Instead of you and you, it was you and me.
Yeah, it wasn't you. It was me and you. Yeah. What I'm going to have you do is on this card. There's this little blank area right here.
Yeah.
You're going to write down one word that describes you. Now don't write like teacher or horseback rider, because I already know that about you.
Right.
Something that I don't know about you, but this word also has to be a positive word. So,
So idiot won't work?
idiot will not work. that would not be it. So if I were to do this, I mean, I would write something like amazing, because I do magic. I would write amazing. I might write handsome. I would write humble. I'm very humble. Right.
You could also write liar.
Or, well, that's not very positive though. So I'm gonna.
You would be a good liar.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, okay, yeah. So I'm a good liar. So I'm going to give this to you. You're going to write it down, but then once you write it down, you're going to put it face down so that no one can see. All right. And I'm going to turn around so the people at home can verify. I'm not looking. I'm not peeking. Because the idea is I'm going to try and guess what this word is in just a moment. And again, I've met you a couple times, but I don't know you too well. Have you finished writing?
I'm done.
Okay, is it upside down?
It's upside down onto your wallet.
Okay, perfect. I'll take back. Actually, you may keep the pen. It looks like a little magic wand.
Oh, good.
All right, I'm going to put this back inside my wallet. I'm not peeking at it. My job is to try and guess the word that she's just thinking of, the word that she wrote down that describes you, that is a positive word. So, again, I already know a little bit about you. I know you're a teacher, a horseback rider. Did you grow up in this area, or did you grow up in New York? You said you were in New York for a while?
I worked in New York City, but I grew up in Connecticut.
You grew up in Connecticut.
I lived in Connecticut most of my life.
What part of Connecticut?
Southwestern Connecticut.
Southwestern, so kind of near that New York area, right? So
Fairfield County.
you worked in New York. What did you do in New York?
I worked in the accounting department for a while.
They-
I worked in the accounting department, not as an accountant, but as a...
So not as a accountant, but okay, so you worked in New York, you grew up in Connecticut, you're a teacher, horseback rider, you live in Brattleboro now?
Dummerston.
Okay, so in this area, you live in this area. See, these questions are meant to spur my thinking. I'm starting to feel, it kind of comes as like this glowing sensation, like this feeling. It's not a heart attack. But I feel it. Do you feel it too? I'm kind of
Not sure where they said it, whether it's the candy bar.
Oh, it might be the candy bar. I'm just gonna say, caring.
I got it, you got it right.
Caring? That's your word?
Yeah.
Caring.
I think you got a microphone in your wallet.
A microphone in my wallet.
I don't know how you got it. It was very good.
Congratulations, you may keep this as a reminder of your caring nature.
This is gonna take yours.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having this conversation. It's been a pleasure sharing this message with the community of Brattleboro.
Well, no, it was really very interesting. I'm sorry, I was the only one, but I'm glad for me.
I think I got something positive out of this, and I think the viewers at home are going to get something positive out of this as well. But by just hearing your ideas bouncing off of mine, and hearing your story, I think people are going to see their own stories reflected. Because even though we all have our own narratives, we all have sort of like the same plot lines going through. We're all struggling with something. And there's all the things that we want to do, we don't know how to do it. Again, the difference between dreamers and visionaries. Dreamers have their eyes closed. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to dream with our eyes open. Until next time, my name is Jonas Cain. See you then.
And it was a tentative, or was it for us? I'm not sure. We'll take a look and see.
Now, the only one that I know I have to change is August.
Which one?
August, so we carry the change the 3rd to the 10th.
Of course. The 10th? Oh, the 10th is? Okay. Of course. Was it on your end that it was a tentative, or was it for us? I'm not sure. We'll take a look and see.
Now, the only one that I know I have to